My name is Janet Stanford, and I am the founding artistic director at Imagination Stage. I've been at Imagination Stage for a very long time. I was just a normal, ordinary, middle-class, only child. I was born in Newark, New Jersey. My dad was a chemical engineer, and my mother was a social worker. Luckily for me, I discovered very early on exactly what I wanted to do with my life. I was 4, and my mother had put me in a dance recital, and I remember probably doing a horrible job on the dance, but looking up after I finished and bowing with this little row of other 4-year-olds and seeing my grandmother smiling at me and applauding hysterically. And I thought, this is good. This is the life for me. I wanna have that feeling more often in my life. I was very fortunate that my dad got transferred to England in 1959, and I was able to grow up in a culture where doing the arts, participating in the arts was really integral to both school and the community. And as an outsider, I found that making my way in that art as a little girl actor and eventually even a director in school, I was able to fit in and overcome the curse of being a colonial, which is what they like to call me. I started teaching and directing summer camps, overseeing summer camps at what was then BAPA in 1984. I was very much a freelance artist at that time. I was also adjunct professor at a couple of local colleges. I was doing some acting. I had my own theater company with Rebecca Rice. It was a social justice company, but neither Rebecca or I had the wherewithal to build an institution. I then had my 2 children. She moved to Minneapolis to be an artistic director for a theater there. And at the age of 40, on my 40th birthday, in fact, I joined Imagination Stage in 1993. And the rest, as they say, is history. I like to say that I spent 15 years in professional theater looking for the right man to work for, and finally found the right woman to work with, and that was Bonnie. When I joined Imagination Stage, the company was very small. It was growing under Bonnie's leadership, but there were only 10 of us doing everything. And I was most attracted to the fact that Kate Breyer and Bonnie had secured a free space at White Flint Mall where the company could start doing professional theater for young people. Kate and I were absolutely passionate about our belief that young people in this community needed good professional theater. And like a lot of the other progressive artistic directors around the country, we were seeing a real lack of good material that was written for children, and particularly a lack of diverse material. We could see the young people walking through our doors and how diverse they were, and we committed ourselves to commissioning and making new plays that would reflect their heritage and culture. And that was a very exciting time to be a part of a wave that was going to change and I believe really improve theater for young audiences in this country. There's just really so many memories, it's hard to pick one out, but I think the thing that kind of unifies the early days in my mind was the commitment that the staff felt to the mission and the goals that we had as a group. We really believed that the arts, and we still do, are integral to a child's life, that there is so much that the arts can provide that are not provided in any other way for young people, and that, like adults, children need a reason to get up in the morning. They need a sense of identity that can only come from an examination of yourself and the culture around you. They need inspiration. They need stories that show them how to live and how not to live, so that they can build their own moral code. And so the sense that we had something unique and important to contribute to a child's development sustained us at that time. And even though we were working in really, I would say, third-class conditions, this motivated us. For example, when Kate and I were the directors and everything else at White Flint Mall's theater space, on every Friday afternoon we rolled up our sleeves, we left our desks, and we took out the cleaning supplies. We had to vacuum the carpet, we had to clean the windows at the front of the building and the mirrors along the wall, and we had to scrub the toilet. And all of that was in aid of our vision for bringing art to young people and doing it in a space that was not dirty. So it was all very hard, but very wonderful at the same time. Moving from Whittier Woods to Auburn Avenue was definitely a wild ride full of many ups and downs and almost nevers, but the truth is I really never wavered in my conviction that Bonnie and the board and the people who were with us at that time could make it happen. And as soon as I realized where we were headed, I knew we had to be prepared. I knew we needed to have the programming and the wonderful plays to put on that would really be in their home at Imagination Stage on Auburn Avenue. So Bonnie and I got a grant to go to the other big TYA theaters across the country, to Dallas, to Seattle, and to Minneapolis. And we were just wowed and impressed by the scope of what they were able to do, the children they were able to reach in a broad community around them, and artistically, the amazing work they were doing. And at the same time, I sought out grants from embassies and foundations to travel the world and to find out what wasn't yet being done in this country and to find out how theaters in Scandinavia and Europe and South America were doing this kind of work for young people. That was a true education, and I felt that I was able to make Washington, D.C. into a kind of portal for artists and ideas and playwrights and plays from other countries that we could then infuse into our own aesthetic here in Bethesda. My absolute favorite production and experience, I have to say, was the collaborations that we did with the Washington Ballet. In 2012, Septime Weber, who is an amazing choreographer and was at the time the artistic director of the Washington Ballet, came to us and said that he would like to co-create a project. And for all his brilliance, Septime truly understood that young people were not seeing the ballet as a matter of course, and he's a true egalitarian and wanted to make sure that this was a part of the kind of theater experience that the young people in our community could have. So together we worked on The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe and created a piece where young people got to see first-class choreography and ballet dancers alongside musical theater actors in an original version of that piece that I co-wrote and directed. And it was also an opportunity to integrate puppets into live theater, which is something I found and saw in Europe and brought back. And we were very lucky to work with Eric Van Wyck, a wonderful set and props and puppet designer, to create Aslan as a three-person puppet who was a tremendous wow for the audience when he entered, and still a beautiful image that will always live in my mind. Collaboration is always the thing that is so exciting about creating a piece of work. You create things with other people, be challenged by them and inspired by them, and do things together that no one person could ever create independently. The Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe was a tremendous success for us. It got 5 Helen Hayes Awards and nominations and 2 awards. And the audience was pretty stunned to see a show with 17 performers in it, an Imagination Stage, and the work that had gone into it. And after one of the performances, a parent came up to me and said, "You know, this work is too good for children." And I took a big breath. I didn't punch her, but I did say, "You know, madam, nothing in my mind is too good for our children. In fact, the point of doing this work is that we must excel. Otherwise, our children are not going to be excited about live theater. They're not going to understand that it still has value in the modern day and that it isn't just an old-fashioned kind of TV and film." That was showed one of my best moments of restraining my actual impulse, but it was also at the same time, of course, a tremendous compliment. For me, Imagination Stage has been an artistic home and a playground and a place to know that the work I do makes a difference for people, for their families, for teachers, for children. And I hope that Imagination Stage can continue to be that kind of place for theater makers and people who are passionate about this art. I also have to say that I've always felt that running a theater company is very akin to running a rehearsal room. And by that I mean all of us, whoever we are, we have things outside of work that are difficult in our lives or not fun, but when we come to our work, we enter, or we can enter, a magical space where we leave all of our baggage, at least temporarily, at the door, and we come in together with the motivation, the hope, the confidence, the belief that together we can create something truly astounding, as though we are workmen on an edifice that will last forever, a great wall, a short cathedral, a pyramid. And while we're not going to leave anything physical behind us because what we do is ephemeral, we have the capacity with what we create to live on in children's minds and hearts, and to give them the strength and the resilience and the courage and the hope to be creative themselves and to create their own edifice in their own lives in the future. And those intangible gifts that I know we impart every day in our classes, in our theater, in our halls as we greet young people into this space, those are the kinds of gifts that are most important to me and ultimately the most enduring.